I want to say welcome to the John Berggruen Contemporary Arts Center. While I just returned, as John mentioned, I just returned to the Bay Area. I've only been at the Cantor for 2 years, so I just returned 2 years ago, but growing up, I got to see a lot of your work, and I feel like it's part of the DNA of San Francisco, and I'm sure there are a lot of people in this room who feel the same way. I saw most of your work at SF MoMA. I think maybe many in the room have seen a lot of your work on trains and corners and some other places that we might be able to venture to tonight. So, but it's just a thrill to be here with you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you. Thanks for coming out to this.
And there was I just want to start by saying there was an essay that was written about your work that I love, written by Jeffrey Deitch, who also has had some wonderful exhibitions with you over the years. And he called it One More Thing in reference to the fact that with Barry, he always wants to add one more thing to the show, and I can attest that we just installed an extra drawing downstairs, so I appreciated having my curatorial, is this level skill set to be able to contribute. I did not know in agreeing to speak with you that I'd get to help hang some art, so.
It's always that way here.
It's wonderful. But I wanted to ask, since we are both natives and we are here in San Francisco, your hometown and mine, I did want to ask, I'm curious if you can share one of your most early memories of art and experiencing art, and I mean art in the most expansive way. The most expansive way possible, but do you have any early memories, or was there anyone in your family that sort of, was involved in the arts or supported your interest in the arts or exposed you to it?
I think my parents both encouraged me to do art, just because I couldn't really do anything else. And then I went through the normal channels of high school, and then I squeaked through there, and then just went to every community college in the Bay Area, just taking the art classes there and whatnot. And then I was at City College in San Francisco, and they had a friend of mine was going there also, and we saw a little flyer for they're accepting two or three students from City College to go to the Art Institute if you submit your portfolio. Oh. So we submitted our portfolios, and we got in the back door that way somehow to the Art Institute.
That's so cool.
And then it got serious after that. It got more as this is.
So Barry, that means you went to the Art Institute.
I went, but through the back door, just snuck in.
Something was enrolled.
I was enrolled, yeah. It's an amazing thing, though. Do you know Kim Bender? I went to school there for 5, 6, 7 years. I just kept going, and then I went down to the register, and I was just like, am I close to graduating or anything like that? Or is it close? And she was on her computer. She goes, if I push this button here, you'll graduate. And I was like, all right. And then she just pushed the button, and that was it. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Kim Bender, you guys, she's great. She's graduated me. Else I would have still been there, or I would have been there till it closed. No, I would have been there till the end for sure.
It's a good thing you asked that question, Otherwise...
Yeah, I didn't know how to end it. I was having so much fun there at the Art Institute. Do you know the Kashar brothers?
I don't. Does anyone else?
They're filmmakers. I'm just the thing about the Art Institute, which is good that it closed before there was a Me Too movement that happened there, because everything was fluid there. When I was there, it was super fluid. Students and teachers and students were in the artistic way. It was just everything. But I took the tour with. It was when before I started attending there, but they were like, let's go pop in on the George Kashar's class, and it was just we just go into this room and pulled behind the curtain, and there's 30 students walking around naked or with togas on, and then George Kashar is just with this camera like in the back. He's like, just move it over that way a little. But it was just like, and I was like, this is my school.
You're like, this is where I'm meant to be.
This is where I need to be right now.
And did you develop any friends and community among sort of any of your peers or people within your clothed or unclothed peers?
No, not at all. It was, no, I didn't, I mean, I learned, there's a couple, it was really competitive, like especially the Art Institute, like painting, it was like painters versus everybody there. So I needed to like find I went into printmaking because the scholarships were easier to continue each year. It wasn't as competitive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was.
I think you're being too modest.
No. It's a real thing. It's super hard to get it was.
Yeah.
There's like 120 painters and like 10 printmakers. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can feel the presence of printmaking in the work. And I mean, as some of you may know, I have a really strong interest in artists' day jobs, and I just recently curated a show at the Cantor called Day Jobs that Margaret Kilgallen opened the show. Actually, there's this fantastic work, and I was interested in the way that her work at the San Francisco Public Library and a sort of exposure to all those repairing books and historical typefaces had shaped the work. But I loved learning that you also had an interesting day job for a while, I think around the corner from here on Townsend and 3rd maybe, right?
Yeah, 3rd and Townsend.
And so you were working, tell us a little bit more about that though, because you were working at a letterpress. Was it a letterpress shop?
Yeah, it was a letterpress shop on the ground floor of 665 3rd Street.
I love that you remember that.
I think everybody remembers their apartment numbers in there.
From that moment in life,
yeah. But yeah, I just rode up my bike. I was looking for a job, and the back door was open, and there was just all these machines, and I was like, "Do you guys need help with anybody working?" And the guy just like this guy Norman Hicks, just like, "Yeah, you want to clean some machines?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll clean some machines." And then I worked there for maybe 10 years, I think, while going to the Art Institute for 10 years.
And what did they do? Like, what was the typeface? Tell me a little bit more. Was it?
It was amazing. They were buying up all the letterpress shops that were all in this area here. This was all like printing shops here, and nobody wanted them. So he would just buy the shop by the pound, kind of, and just. Or they couldn't even move the equipment. He was really good at moving equipment. It's all these bars and leverage. He would be working on pyramids if he was in another. No. Seriously, he could move any machinery, heavy machinery, and they would just take all the equipment out of shops, and then he was really smart. He would set them back up in his space on 3rd Street, and then we would just run jobs on them while he was selling them to Mexico and like India. He put them in containers and send them to other countries.
I love it. I feel like someone needs to do a show. There's been so many artists in the Bay Area who have a connection to either typography and printmaking and letterpress or sign painting, like New Bohemia signs. There's so many artists who've been who've had side careers as sign painters or in these sort of forms of typography. But I think as you look around this room, you can see just an incredible deftness and dexterity and kind of.
There's a bunch of seats up here, you guys.
Yeah, you can come be reserved. You're our reserved folks. Come on up. But I love, and then that way we can see the typography I'm talking about a little better if you come up here.
It's okay.
But I'm just looking at some of the amazing letters that the sort of typography that you explore in your work that almost looks sculptural here.
Can I interject something?
Yeah,
I got to tell you, my boss was amazing too. He was just like
really?
He lived in San Jose and took Caltrains down to 3rd Street all the time, and he was a TM, transmeditation teacher. And I'd always go into his office, and I was like, "You in there, Norman?" He goes, "I'm just staring at the back of my eyes right now." And he would, he just gave me a key and let me work whenever I wanted to work, and keep track of my hours, and just like that time in San Francisco was also a great. It was a great period for just, you know what I mean, like that, like when you're learning from this older generation that has a loose operation. I completely took his way of running a business and tried to do it at the studio, the studio I'm trying to run now. But
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Just let people
do their thing.
Yeah, just give them a key and let them, if they have time, they could come help. If not, they're so I'm trying to implement that still to this day.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, also. Like my tax person hates it.
But I'm curious, did that experience sort of expose you to, were you poring over books, looking at different kinds of typefaces? Like, I'm curious how you really learned this and how you've developed this kind of encyclopedic knowledge of all these different, or if you're inventing your own.
I think we were just emptying a lot of print shops. We would just go in and just, I would always go for the paper stock and the letterpress. The letterpress trays were always amazing to me because they're around the edges, like the ink on the printer's hands were always always touching the edges, so it had a nice patina on these. And then I started just using those for art. Like I would go in and take all the trays, and he would start moving all the equipment, and just.
I love it.
Yeah.
I feel like you can feel on the surface of some of these, the surface almost feels like metal. It's so smooth. There's something. Don't touch the paintings unless John says you can.
You can touch them. They're really strong. They're super
I tried.
Strong.
Sorry, but just touch them with your eyes. Like there's something about like the surface of them that I feel like.
We need an insurance job here. So go ahead and touch them. So you could do it.
And I'm also, so this is a little bit of a homecoming, this show for you. You had a show here, I think 20 plus years ago.
I had it at John's famous elevator gallery spot. The original. Is that the original?
No, there was one across the street for about a year or two on Grand Avenue.
In the 70s?
Yep. So we opened in 1970 across the street at 257. And then a year and a half, 2 years later, we moved to 228 Grant. That we were there for 47 long, hard years.
Amazing.
It was amazing.
First of all, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible, yeah.
How many years then has this gallery been open?
This one?
Not this specific space, but just the gallery.
Altogether?
Yeah, altogether.
54 years.
I mean, that's kind of remarkable. I think that.
Thank you, John. Wow. Come on, John.
I mean, I just want to point out that as people talk about the city and downtown struggling, that think about how many galleries have been here for 30 plus years and have not closed. And 50, that's incredible. But Rena Branston, Catherine Clark, Cheryl Haynes, like something about the art is enduring. I just have to point that out. So, but I wanted to go back to this being a little bit of a homecoming for you because you've had a show at a previous iteration, one of John's many galleries.
The best gallery. It had the best setup. You just go in an elevator, small elevator that.
But it was medium size.
It was a 2-person elevator, and when you go up, it went into his gallery, and you can figure out how the artwork got in there because it was a good setup. Like there was some magic that happened where you're just like, how did this sculpture and painting?
Through the window.
Through the window.
We were on an alley, and we could hoist things up because the truck could pull into the alley and not get a ticket or whatever. And
The mysteries are being revealed. I love it. I was thinking, Barry, maybe you had installed art in the elevator because I could really see you doing that. Extending the show to the elevator. But the title for this show is Old Mystified, and I love that title, and I'm curious where that came from.
John picked it. John picked it. John agreed with it.
John agreed with it. Okay, I like that.
I've used it. I got it from someone else.
Okay, I like it.
I
think it works.
Someone used to sign Old Mystified all the time. Like when I was young, I used to see signed Old Mystified.
Well, I love it. One of the things that I notice in your work that I love is the way that it's sort of pieced together. You see that here, but especially in some of the, you may have seen large-scale drawings and paintings that are almost like these giant clusters. If you go downstairs and see the downstairs space, it's incredible. But I'm curious about the way you display these are framed and rectangular, but I'm thinking more about the kind of amorphous ones and the way that we have a term that we say in museums like hanging something salon style, which just means like, a bunch of different small frames on a wall, but you see hotels imitating that all the time, but yours not salon style, yours something else. Because in salon style, things are a little irregular, but there's space between everything. In Barry, there's never any space, it's like, it's this amazing, dense cluster. And I know SF MoMA curator Janet Bishop has called them clouds. I think they're kind of like crazy quilts though. There's something about because so often there's also a lot of patterning. They remind me of like some sort of a quilt. And I just think it's so distinctive about your work and something that I love. And you see it imitated even in the more regularly shaped works. But I've read that this sort of configuration has a connection to an experience you had at a church in Brazil. And I was just curious if you could talk about that. I know you lived there for a little while or spent, 8 months or something there. But can you share a little bit about that experience and how it's connected to the work?
Yeah, it was... there was a grant. It was a Reader's Digest Lila Wallace grant that I wrote together with Yerba Buena Center for the Arts with Rennie Pritikin, and somehow we got it. We got the grant, and it was to go to Brazil and do a cultural exchange with their artists and me supposedly, and then Margaret was there also. And when you say church, the idea of church is different there. It was just like these adobe buildings, but they have these areas of the walls where people bring in these little drawings of things that happened to their body or a miracle that somehow happened. Like a person in a cast, or like someone's eye that was poked out, and just like these really crude. I don't know how to say it, but they're just like so crude and like pure. Like they weren't even art. They like went beyond art, and they were just all clustered the same way I try to cluster things downstairs, just like trying to fit an entire community's ailments, all haphazardly all over the walls, and then above they have these carved hands and legs for people that had somehow overcome something, and they all end up in these. I hate to even call them churches because they're not like churches in the idea of
right, almost more of a.
It's almost has to do more with voodoo, I feel like.
Right,
it's
right. Right.
Not that I know what voodoo is, but it just feels more, it feels more direct and more, I understood it immediately. I was like, this is incredible, to see 30,000 different drawings, all different styles of drawings just clustered together. And
then some sort of sculptural wood elements too. Yeah.
100,000 legs would be they don't ever throw them out. They're just amazing. They just find a new area to. It's somewhat. It has to be documented somewhere because it's just everywhere. Like in the northeast part of Brazil, it's almost everywhere.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I want to make artwork that's this powerful, that just that's moving and. Honest somehow, or we should talk about graffiti for a little bit because that's really honest and
yeah.
Should we? No, let's not.
No, I think we should talk about graffiti, but
No, I wanted to go back to the first, when you said an early childhood thing that I remember is my grandmother on my mom's side, which is a Chinese side, he was a car dealer for illegal gambling in Chinatown, like it had to be like the 40s, 30s or 40s. And then my grandmother worked at Levi's, like sewing jeans. Yeah. And they somehow bought a house on Filbert, like up behind the Art Institute, like a corner building. And we'd go over there on Sundays, my mom and my dad, and we'd go through the Broadway tunnel. This had to be like in the 70s sometimes. And I remember the graffiti on the, like stuck in traffic and just looking at the graffiti in the Broadway tunnel on the tiles. And there was this one that was like a pig, and it was just like, it was like a cartoon character of a pig, and it just said, "Fuck pigs." Like, this was in the 70s. Right. Like, and I couldn't understand. I was like, why would anyone want to why would anyone write something so bad? Like, I couldn't fathom what was like I was like 7 or 8 years old.
that was before you were officially,
No, but it was something I saw, like, it was there every weekend when we'd go, I just look for it. I was like, where's this pig thing?
I love that. I love that. I also drove through the Broadway tunnel a lot as a kid. I don't remember the pig, and that's why you became a great artist, and I am doing something else.
No.
But,
there's no difference.
But I definitely remember that tunnel. But I feel like it's a nice segue to talk about graffiti, actually, because in a way, I also was thinking about the group of works downstairs that you all should spend time looking at. It's a show in and of itself. I wish I could take it to Stanford and like put it up for a year because it's amazing. But it's
a lot of the artists are here.
Okay. Oh yeah. Are any of the artists here?
That have stuff in there for sure.
Oh my gosh! Raise your hand if you have work
Whether
downstairs.
they know it, they'll never raise their hand to it. But
all right, we won't make you raise your hand. All right, you can just give us a knowing wink. That's fine.
There's for sure people that I know for sure that have work downstairs, whether they like it or not.
So some people are voluntarily in there, maybe some involuntarily discover that they are in the show without knowing.
You're in with, yeah.
It's incredible, but it's a practice of yours that I really love, and it's something you've done with almost every show. You do you take the space and share some of the artists and the works and things that you love, and signs and drawings, and some of it's your own work, but a lot of it is not. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. There's a sense of discovery I was just asking him about, like, you can one or two of the thousands of pieces downstairs, and just some of the stories that came with them are really great. But I think of that in connection to graffiti, just in terms of collaborators, and also a community of folks that you have been inspired by and worked with, and wondered if you could talk about sort of your start and how it all got started in the 80s for you, after you made sense of the pig.
After the pig, yeah. A friend and I started like writing on things in like 83 or 84. We just started. He knew more about it than I did, and he was like, "Barry, all these kids in New York, they're just like, they're painting on subways, they're painting on everything." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, we need tags tonight, and we need to go put them on stuff." I was like, "Let's go do it." And I came up with some stupid tags. Some of them I still have today. He had a stupid tag also that we just go write on mailboxes, and we'd write on everything, actually. We tag on everything. And so it's an amazing network of people, because the people you come to love, you know nothing about them, but you see them everywhere. So it's like this perfect, and then when you do meet them, it's a letdown. But the buildup of not knowing who a person is, putting imagery out there. I'm still fascinated, even to this day, what drives someone to do it. But just like I like line. I like study the look like the style of how someone writes something, or the speed in which they write something, or the quantity, the placement. Everything is it was way more interesting to me than what was going on in the Art Institute or the museums or anything. It was just way more. It was way more invigorating, you know. Just like that's. I mean, I went to school and everything. I did all that, but as soon as it got dark, I was just like, okay, let's make some real art right now.
Yeah, I love that you. You've said that graffiti is the highest art there is, which I think
there's no reference point for it, like in art history. Like, I mean, there is now, but like it's not. It's great. The Bay Area is great for graffiti. It like has like. It was good back then, and it's good now. It's just it's probably even better now, I feel like.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Do you feel like there are generational shifts that happen that you've observed over?
Yeah, the older generation always should step aside for sure to let the younger people do stuff, and then yeah, it's amazing. Like as a phenomenon, it's incredible. Like I have no idea like what goes through a person's mind anymore to do it, or what inspires them. Actually, I know what inspires them, but like the entry level graffiti today is a lot trickier than how it was when I started. There's a lot more dangling off of things and climbing higher and doing huge block long things. So yeah, it's amazing. There's not. It doesn't even fit into art history. It's just it's like there's art history this way, and then this graffiti that's just this.
Right, its own trajectory, and yeah.
Yeah, and it has some people that made it and then passed away, and then people speculate on the artwork or what they did, and.
Well, I think there's something you were saying that you love just looking at the quality of the line, and it's like imagine sort of reading cities and streets that way. But I was thinking about, you know, how connected we are right now through social media, but that when you were making some of this work or doing shows in the 80s and 90s before we all had, you know, smartphones, that everyone would know that you had a show because of, you know, people would basically be tagging and letting people know that you were in town, and the word got out maybe better than it does even now. So there's something.
It got out pretty well for his opening.
But it went out a different way, right? It's sort of like, I don't know, there's something interesting about that way of communicating. But one of my favorite pieces by you that I actually haven't seen in person, that I hope that someday, I don't know if it still exists, but I wanted to ask you about this massive installation of a 99-cent store, since we're talking about cities and like the urban experience. I know that you made like a full-scale store, and it had the name Fong on it, on this store, which is sort of one of your kind of artistic aliases that appears in a lot of places. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about like those sorts of large scale installations and creations of bodegas and 99-cent stores. I think you did a bodega once, that it sort of feels in the same spirit of, it feels connected, like sort of a bridge between maybe the graffiti and some of the painting work. And I'd just love to hear you share a little more about it.
I think, like growing up here in the Bay Area, there was a lot of installation art like going on during that time through like New Langton Arts and like Southern Exposure. There's more that I can't remember right now. But that we're having like Ann Hamilton and Ann Chamberlain were always doing these really extensive installations at that time, which I saw and was like just like an entire floor covered with honey with pennies in it, like full immersive installation. I never thought I would get to do that, but there was just opportunities where we just got to. We had the institutions had budgets that we could and helpers that could help us build stuff. So we just built things, things that we liked. But it feels passé now a little bit like I never want to revisit that era again. Does that make sense?
I mean,
there were so many amazing. Do you remember Survival Research Laboratories? They used to like have these amazing events, like unsanctioned events and like underneath freeways and stuff that were just like super dangerous. Things were exploding and like. I just learned from I learned from all the people that I saw when I was growing up here, or just running into events.
Well, you don't have to revisit. I just wanted to. So.
Oh no! It just feels. It was fun to do, but I don't know what it. I don't know if it achieved anything, or it was fun at the time.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about graffiti, but there are also some surfboards in here, and I've seen those in like many of your shows. So, how long have you been making those, and are you still surfing yourself? Is that something you also do on top of all these other things?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit of surfing.
A little bit of surfing.
Those are. I like the way they look in a pile, like just the aesthetic of a pile of boards.
You notice that Barry doesn't like doing just one thing? Have you noticed that?
It's they're in the studio, so it's just it's something I look at all the time.
Yeah.
But I haven't had I've had the opportunity a couple times to do it, to stack them, but in the future I have an idea of. Like I know, it would look good across the street at the museum.
We'll let them know. Let's let them know.
Or Stanford has high ceilings also. The Cantor.
Absolutely.
Cantor.
I know a few museums.
It needs a high ceiling, like a really high.
A really high ceiling.
Yeah, I have a project that's brewing.
I was going to ask you, what's next? What are you excited about working on next, besides maybe a surfboard installation coming to a museum near one of us soon?
I have a couple of shows overseas next year, in Japan and then in Paris.
Two places, pretty great places.
Yeah, they're great places. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do for them yet. But
Well, one thing that I've noticed about Barry's shows, and we'll open it up for questions from all of you, but one thing that I love about Barry's shows is that someone said that once that they never end, and it's because, like with every show, some piece that's in the show continues to have a life in the next show, and it's sort of a tributary that leads to a next body of work.
Because it doesn't sell.
No, that's not. No.
That's one of the main reasons. It just keeps, because you could show it again, and you could reconfigure it.
I appreciate it. I like.
You could reconfigure it. You could do all kinds of things.
I love that. I love the idea of feeding into the next one. So on that note of shows never ending, I will open it up to anyone else who has questions. Feel free to just raise your voice. Yeah.
Can you tell us about the faces?
Oh, I meant to ask about that. Thank you. It was a question. You're sort of everyman. Yeah, your everyman face. Yeah.
I don't know.
There's two good ones over here. Well, I've heard
I
you
like
say
that painting.
Yeah, that one's great. Yeah.
That's my favorite painting in here. I like that one. I don't know why though. It's just they're just devices. Everything's on there like is a device for something.
When you said your grandmother was Chinese, did she have any influence on you?
No.
No, it just comes out in the art.
No, I mean, I
It comes out in her face.
no, I could be influenced by anything. I have to actually dial it down with influences but I think I could almost eliminate the painting would be better without faces on it.
We're not letting you touch it though. It's
It'd be
done.
better. They're just like they're like devices for things to pause on, to gather yourself for a second, and then go to another area of the painting. For me, that's how they work. I don't know how it works for anybody else. We could do a walkthrough. I could walk through downstairs. Would that make it easier? I could talk about it. I like talking about other stuff than mine.
Yeah. If we can fit down there. Does anyone have a question before we head downstairs? Any other questions?
now.
We can go now? All right, let's do it. Head downstairs.
Was that John?
That was John.
John, thank you. Thank you, John.
Let's head downstairs.